Hello and welcome to the Underhive. We are back with some more How to Command the Death Guard. In this series, we're going to take a look at every aspect of the Death Guard, so whether you're looking to get more out of your army, or you're thinking of joining Nurgle's finest, then there's something here for you. In this episode, we're going to continue our thought experiment into how to glow up the 7 plague companies in light of the Votann leaks, which they are at this stage, but ultimately I expect the power level of the Votann coming out is going to be quite high. Now, of course, Games Workshop are not going to listen to me on my rule suggestions, but this is just for a bit of fun. So we are up to the 3rd plague company, so let's dive in and take a look at what we can do with Mortarion's Anvil. Now, as it goes, I think Mortarion's Anvil are probably one of, if not the strongest plague company. You're not necessarily always looking to play for strength if you're just looking to have a fun game with a friend. But if you were thinking to be competitive and trying to get the most out of an army, Mortarion's Anvil is probably a decent pick, regardless of how you've built your list. Firstly, Relaptic Assault. Any unit that is within 3 of an enemy unit when it has finished its charge move can pile in the 3, or rather, can heroic intervene the 3 inches that a character would typically be able to do, as if they were a character, even if that unit isn't one. Now, of course, there is a generic stratagem in the Codex to allow your plague drones to heroically intervene a big 6. So I found myself using that more often than not because that is how I play my drones, as sort of a sweep and support style unit to make sure that my main battle line isn't harassed too much if the opponent's got a big dangerous unit like those CSM Terminator bricks that are running around. So I think as a whole, the stratagem is fine. I think it could be a little bit stronger. I think the way I would change it if I was going to glow it up would be rather than any enemy units that are within 3. Because as it goes, if you're giving your opponent the heads up, they won't let that happen. They'll just stay outside of 3 and get as many bodies in as they can. It's very, very easy to play around that unless your positioning is absolutely perfect. And you don't necessarily have the movement as Death Guard to make that happen. It doesn't mean you're a bad player if you can't arrange that to be the case. It's just a limitation sometimes. So what I would do is I would change it to just 1 enemy unit. And you could either give them 6-inch, but that doesn't feel that lore friendly because the Death Guard are meant to be slow. Yes, they move 5 normally, but giving them a 6-inch heroic intervene, I think verges on other armies. For the drone, it's fine because the drones fly and it's a lot quicker than the rest of the army anyway. But if we're talking about, say, some Death Shroud heroically intervening 6, that would feel a bit wrong to me, even as the player doing it. So I think what we could do is maybe even make it 2 CP, but make it a single unit and they can fight first. Or something like that. Just because at that point, it does give you an incentive to hold back the line and go, right, well, if you do want to charge it, I will get that heroic intervene, even though I'm not maximizing my movement. Again, I think that might still be a bit strong. Relaptic Assault is one of the stratagems that I don't really think needs touching, but I felt like giving a suggestion for it anyway, just in case. Now, Gloaming Bloat, as it goes, is what I feel would be the best contagion effect by a mile. I think the fact that the Gloaming Bloat is so strong and so widely useful is why Mortarion's Anvil is probably the most competitive pick. While an enemy unit's in contagion range, they can't fire Overwatch, they can't set to defend, and they can't make hit rerolls or wound rerolls. Now, of course, I've mentioned there that I think the Votann having army-wide ignore wound rerolls is a bit excessive and a bit unfun because not only do Death Guard really rely on wound rerolls, but so do many armies. You know, Lightning Claws being out there. If you're running a Lightning Claw heavy list, whether it's Warp Talons or Van Vets or whatever it might be, all of a sudden the way you've built your list is just completely invalidated. At least with Gloaming Bloat, it's only if you go near that character. And whilst that area does get bigger throughout the game, I think it is a bit more fair than just making that an army-wide thing. I don't think the Gloaming Bloat needs a glow up. I think it is strong as it is. Not only does it deny those hits and wound rerolls, but denying Overwatch can be super clutch sometimes. Not only into armies like Tau that really love an Overwatch, but otherwise do it by sort of the normal rules. Same goes with Iron Hands. They're hitting on 4s if they pay the additional CP. Still a better Overwatch than most, but not perfect. But for those units like the CSM or Thousand Suns, Rubric Marines with the Warp Flamers, they love an Overwatch. They're taking the warp time power to move up. Yeah, they can't charge, but they don't care. They want you to charge them so that they can burn you to ashes. So being able to deny Overwatch on things like that is phenomenal, and denying set to defend is fine as well. It's a little bit more durability in your favor in some cases. So as it goes, Gloaming Bloat, I think it's powerful enough. Don't think it needs anything extra. You could probably even take the Overwatch and set to defend bit off it, and it would still be good. But I'm not advocating to make the Death Guard weaker. I think, again, this concept is if the Votann is the new baseline power level, not that I think Death Guard are just weak generally. And then the Relic Warp Insect Hive, I don't think it's bad as it is, but it doesn't really feel lawful in line with what it actually is supposed to be. So the Relic is Warp Insect Hive. As part of their hellish defense systems, warriors of Mortarion's Anvil deploy hives of foul warp insects. So it's a Mortarion's Anvil model only. Each time the bearer makes a melee attack, you can reroll the hit roll and reroll the wound roll. Now, on models like the Demon Prince, who otherwise can't get rerolls, I don't think it's terrible to have that sort of effect, but it just doesn't really feel like there's a warp insect hive going on. Yeah, sure, if the opponent's distracted by the warp insect, trying to get into them and all over their eye lenses and whatnot, or in their face and, biting at them, then yeah, your Demon Prince might get the better of the fight because he's not being distracted, whereas they are. But that doesn't really feel like that's what's going on in terms of the rules. Just feels like he's a beast, which isn't the description that's given here. It says it's defensive. So to make it more of a defensive ability, I wouldn't want to overlap what the Blightspawn does. I think having what the Blightspawn does in multiple locations is a bit much. So maybe it can just be another, within 3, you can select one unit to fight last. I know that's what the Blightspawn does by his default ability, but I wouldn't want to copy the Revolting Stench Vat to make it a large area of you don't count as fight first, don't count as charging, because I think being able to have 2 lots of that is too strong. So I think a singular fight last, we see that from Emperor's Children. Having 2 lots of fight last, even stacked up with loads of fight first, isn't broken. It's strong, but it's not too bad. So I think having another fight last is more fitting to the lore, but not necessarily something that the third play company need. I think we can probably leave them as they are, and they still are going to be up there for a top pick as a play company, but otherwise we could do something to make the Warp Insect Hive feel more like what it's supposed to be, a defensive adaptation, rather than this guy's just way better at creaming your dudes in melee. So, and I'm not particularly fond of my choice of words there. Don't think too much into that. But I've said it now, it is what it is. So, as I say, I think Mortarion's Anvil, probably strong enough as they are, don't really need a glow up, even if the rest of the play companies did. But there are a couple of things we could do there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time in the Underhive.